Trump wants a ceasefire halt if Hamas postpones prisoner exchange. No Palestinian allowed to return to Gaza in Trump's relocation plan. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Shuhaida Arifin and you're watching World Today. Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim has called on all Malaysians to strengthen the spirit of togetherness, appreciate diversity and foster love in conjunction with Thaipusam celebration today. He said that for Hindus, Thaipusam is not just a festival but a symbol of perseverance, determination and sacrifice in facing life's challenges. Thaipusam also reflects their inner strength and discipline in confronting life's obstacles. The Prime Minister stated that in an increasingly uncertain world, the spirit of mutual respect and accepting differences must be the foundation of unity. Only by understanding and respecting one another can assure a civilized, dignified and prosperous nation for all. According to him, these characteristics make Malaysia a country rich in heritage and noble values and respected not only in the region but also around the world. Sarawak Premier Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg said Tahi construction method for the 1,000 megawatt undersea electricity transmission project from Sarawak to Singapore is expected to be finalised in the first quarter of this year. He also expects this to be followed by a conditional agreement between Malaysia and Singapore. Sarawak's Premier highlighted the matter was also deliberated during a bilateral meeting chaired by Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar Ibrahim and his Singaporean counterpart Lawrence Wong. He added that the installation of the undersea cable involves various technical aspects, including procurement and deployment, given that only 3 such undersea cables exist worldwide. Earlier, he delivered a public lecture at the IC's Yusof Ishak Institute on Monday. Meanwhile, Tan Sri Abang Johari said that in his meeting with Singapore's Foreign Minister, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, they discussed the establishment of a Singapore Consulate General Office in Kuching, Sarawak. He had previously stated that the setting up of the Consulate General Office was agreed upon during the 10th Malaysia-Singapore Annual Leaders Retreats in 2023. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Law and Institutional Reform, Dato Sri Azalina Othman on Monday held a meeting with Cambodia's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Justice Koi Drith. In a Facebook post, Azalina shared that during the meeting, held as part of a working visit to Cambodia, they exchanged views on strengthening legal cooperation between the two countries. The minister also reaffirmed Malaysia's commitment to advancing international commercial arbitration and mediation across ASEAN. She stressed that with the rapid economic growth in the region, a robust and holistic dispute resolution framework is crucial to building business and investments confidence. During the meeting, Dato Sri Azalina took the opportunity to brief RITH on the upcoming ASEAN Convention 2025 on legal assistance for children. This important initiative, she said, was aimed at strengthening legal aid services for children across ASEAN, reflecting their shared commitment to safeguarding children's rights and promoting their welfare. The convention, organised by the Legal Affairs Division of the Prime Minister's Department, was scheduled to take place in June. As part of these efforts, Dato Sri Azalina also personally extended an invitation to RITH to attend the ASEAN Legal Forum 2025, which would be held in Kuala Lumpur this August. US President Donald Trump warned that the ongoing ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas would end if every Israeli hostage is not released from Gaza within days. His remarks comes after Hamas announced that it will postpone further exchanges under a fragile ceasefire deal it said Israel was violating. Tensions have been running high since a shock proposal by Trump to take over the Gaza Strip and remove its more than 2 million inhabitants. Trump said on Monday he would call for the end of the ceasefire if every Israeli hostage was not released by noon on Saturday. The ceasefire agreement says staggered releases should take place over the ongoing 42-day first phase of the deal. A spokesman for Hamas armed wing, the Azadin al-Qassam Brigades, said in a statement earlier on Monday that the next hostage release, which was scheduled for next Saturday, 15 February, will be postponed until further notice. The spokesman Abu Ubaidah said the resumption of hostage prisoner exchange was pending the Israeli occupation forces compliance and retroactive fulfillment of the past week's obligations. The group said Israel failed to carry out its commitments under the truce in the time of violating the ceasefire, including on humanitarian and deliveries, and after the Sunday deaths of 3 Gazans. The truce that went into effect on 19 January largely halted more than 15 months of fighting in the Gaza Strip and saw 5 groups of Israeli hostages freed in exchange for hundreds of Palestinians in Israeli custody. Earlier, Trump said Palestinians would not have the right of return to the Gaza Strip under his proposal to redevelop the enclave, contradicting his own officials who suggested Gazans would only be relocated temporarily. He added he would try to strike a deal with Jordan and Egypt to take the displaced Palestinians, saying the U.S. will channel the two countries billions and billions of dollars a year.
Beautiful communities, safe communities, could be 5, 6, could be 2, but we'll build safe communities a little bit away from where they are, where all of this danger is. In the meantime, I would own this. Think of it as a real estate development for the future. It would be a beautiful piece of land.
Would the Palestinians have the right to return?
No, they wouldn't, because...
In a shock announcement on 4th February, after meeting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington, Trump proposed resettling Gaza's 2.2 million Palestinians and the U.S. taking control of the seaside enclave, redeveloping it into the Riviera of the Middle East. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Tuesday that US President Donald Trump has agreed to consider exempting Australia from his steel and aluminium tariffs after what he called a constructive phone call with Trump. Trump said on Sunday he will introduce new 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports into the US on top of existing metal duties in another major escalation of his trade policy overhaul.
I said to the President Trump that this was an issue of some media coverage in Australia, and that we therefore agreed on the words that would be used, that it was under consideration. That's what I'll stick to, but we'll continue to engage quite clearly constructively. But can I say this? It was a very constructive and warm discussion.
Albanese's talk with Trump comes a day after Australia's trade minister said Australia's steel and aluminium exports to the US created good-paying American jobs and were key to shared defense interests. Albanese said he remained confident a deal could be reached with Trump. South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol arrived for his impeachment trial at the Constitutional Court on Tuesday, where 4 witnesses are expected to take the stand through the day. Former Safety Minister Lee Sang-min and National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik were called to the court as witnesses. The Constitutional Court began trial on 27 December to review an impeachment motion that accused Yoon of violating his constitutional duty by imposing martial law with no justifiable grounds. It has 180 days to make a decision. Prosecutors have separately indicted Yoon on charges of leading an insurrection. He was arrested last month and is being held at a detention center.
While further hearings may be scheduled, it is likely that the court will conclude proceedings by the end of February and issue a decision on Yoon's impeachment in March. Until now, the country's top court has held 2 preliminary hearings and 6 formal hearings since the National Assembly impeached Mr. Yoon on 14 December 2024 over his 3rd December martial law declaration that year. Meanwhile, Yoon's legal team is reportedly trying to delay the proceedings, having already requested to reduce the frequency of hearings to once a week.
North Korea on Tuesday accused the United States of a hostile military act after a U.S. Navy submarine docked in arch-rival South Korea to replenish supplies. They warned the United States to stop provocations stirring up the instability any longer, accusing it of ignoring North Korea's security concern.
Yonhap News Agency reported that the USS Alexandria, a nuclear-powered submarine, arrived at Busan Naval Base in South Korea on Monday, with a similar visit was made last November. They noted the importance of developing the North's self-defense capabilities and referenced leader Kim Jong-un's vow in January that his country's nuclear program would continue indefinitely. Largely cut off from the world diplomatically and economically and under a bevy of sanctions, North Korea's nuclear weapons program has been a major thorn in the side of the United States for years. A summit between the two in Hanoi collapsed in 2019 over talks on sanctions relief and what Pyongyang would be willing to give up in return. North Korea said earlier this month it would not tolerate any provocation by the United States after top U.S. diplomat Marco Rubio called it a rogue state in a radio interview.
Poland Prime Minister Donald Tusk on Monday announced an investment plan for 2025 aimed at strengthening Warsaw's security during the war in neighboring Ukraine. Tusk, whose centrist coalition came to power in 2023, said Poland planned to spend a record $160 billion this year on investment to kickstart the Central European countries' growth.
On Monday, Tusk emphasized that Poland would also aim to overtake the EU's Western power economies, who until relatively recently sometimes looked down on them. The Premier pledged to attract foreign investment, saying that he had held advanced talks with major tech companies Google, Amazon, IBM and Microsoft. Poland, the only NATO country to share a border with Russia and a war-torn Ukraine, sees itself on the front line of alleged attempts by Moscow to destabilize the West. Last year, it announced that it would spend more than $2.4 billion to fortify its eastern border, the EU's eastern flank against potential enemies. According to initial estimates from Statistics Poland, the country's economy expanded by 2.9% last year compared to 0.1% growth in 2023.
Up next, at least 55 people were killed in Guatemala's deadliest bus crash. Stay with us. Congo authorities will put at least 75 soldiers on trial on Monday for fleeing the advance of Rwanda-backed M23 rebels into the eastern province of South Kivu and for violence against civilians, including murder and looting. The soldiers facing trial were arrested for fleeing the front line after Nyabibue's capture.
The United Nations has reported mass violations, including summary executions, gang rape, and sexual slavery in the wake of a major M23 advance in late January that led to the capture of East Democratic Republic of Congo's largest city of Goma. M23 fighters, Congolese soldiers and pro-government militias were all implicated. Congo has not commented on reports concerning its troops, but called on the UN to investigate violations it blames on M23 rebels and Rwanda. Others have been arrested further south on the same charges, are expected to join them in the dock. A civil society source in Kavumu, a town 35 kilometers north of Bukavu and home to city's airport, said deserting soldiers had killed 10 people, including 7 sitting in a bar on Friday evening.
Authorities said at least 55 people were killed in Guatemala on Monday when a bus crashed through a guardrail and plunged into a ravine. They described the crash as one of the worst road accidents in Latin America in years.
The bus was travelling to Guatemala City from the town of San Agustin Acasaguaslan in El Progreso, about 90 kilometres to the northeast of the country. The fire department said the driver apparently lost control of the bus and collided with several small vehicles before plunging over the precipice. An initial investigation showed that the bus was 30 years old but still had a license to operate. The bus was carrying around 70 people when it fell into a river contaminated with sewage in Guatemala City, creating difficult conditions for rescuers trying to retrieve bodies. Road accidents leading to dozens of fatalities are common in Central and South America. In January 2018, 52 people were killed in Peru when a bus fell off a cliff onto a beach north of the capital, Lima.
At least one person has died in a plane crash at Scottsdale Airport in Arizona on Monday. The crash involved a mid-sized business jet collided with another parked mid-sized business jet upon arrival.
I'm the Aviation Planning and Outreach Coordinator. Today, at approximately 14:39, we had a mid-sized business jet, upon arrival, collide with another mid-sized business jet that was parked on private property. Our runway is currently closed and will remain closed for the foreseeable future. We'll have more information on that as it is available.
Currently, the emergency crews are working to rescue one person trapped in one of the aircrafts. The runway remains closed and officials have not yet provided details on the cause of the crash. The incident comes at a time of heightened scrutiny of U.S. air safety. National Transportation Safety Board investigators are probing 3 deadly crashes in recent weeks. The mid-air collision of a passenger jet and U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter in Washington, D.C. that killed 67 people, a medical jet crash in Philadelphia that killed 7 people, and a plane crash in Alaska that killed 10 people. Classrooms were empty in Rio Grande do Sul in southern Brazil on Monday as the state is hit by an intense heat wave, prompting the local government to postpone the return to classes. Classes in the 2,320 state schools were expected to begin on Monday, but due to the strong heat wave, they were rescheduled for 17 February. The request to postpone the return to classes was made by the Teachers' Union, which pointed to the forecast of the high temperatures and the lack of structure in the schools as the reasons for the change of date. The Brazilian Meteorological Observatory METSOL said the temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius could be reached in the region on Monday, while Tuesday could be the worst day of the heat in the episode of extreme heat. The observatory also reported that the heat wave should have its last day in Rio Grande do Sul on Wednesday. Indonesia launched an annual free healthcare screening on Monday, a $183.54 million initiative, which the country's health ministry said its biggest ever to prevent early deaths. The program entitles Indonesians of all ages to a non-mandatory free screening on their birthday. The ministry announced the checks include blood pressure and eye tests, as well as tests to determine risk of heart problems or stroke. Top causes of death in the world's fourth most populous nation include stroke, heart disease and tuberculosis, data from the World Health Organization shows. Health Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin said the government aims to promote preventive care to at least 280 million Indonesians divided into 6 age groups.
Melayani 280 juta masyarakat. Ini adalah program terbesar in terms of jangkauan yang dilakukan oleh pemerintah Indonesia. Nah, sekarang program ini dibagi-bagi atas kelompok karena beda-beda perlakuannya. Untuk yang balita, yang baru lahir itu ada 6 cek, ada 6 screening. Balita ada 8 screening. Usia SD ada 11 screening. Usia SMP 13 screening, SMA 12 screening, usia dewasa dan lansia kayak saya 19 screening.
Additionally, Budi mentioned the budget for the health checks was cut after President Prabowo Subianto ordered $19 billion of budget cuts to help fund election promises, including giving free meals to school children. In sports, China sweeps 6 gold medals in third day of Winter Asian Games. Stay tuned. Starting off our sports segment this afternoon, host China won 6 of the 7 gold medals up for grabs on day 3 of the Asian Winter Games in Harbin on Monday.
In speed skating, Gao Tingyu won the men's 500 meter before helping teammates Liang Ziwen and Ning Zhongyan to another goal in the team sprint. China also swept the women's 300 meter podium with Yang Binyu taking gold ahead of silver medalist Han Mei and Tai Jian who claimed bronze. At the Abuli Ski Resort, China added 2 big-air snowboarding goals. Xiao Xinrui won the women's event ahead of compatriot Zhang Xiaonan, who finished runner-up, while Yang Weilong and Zhang Xinji took the men's gold and silver respectively. In the freestyle skiing mixed team aerials, Su Mingtao, Li Xinpeng and Qi Guangpu combined to top the podium ahead of silver medalist Kazakhstan and Japan who took bronze. Japan's Haruki Yamashita won the only other gold on offer on Monday in the men's cross-country skiing 10-kilometer freestyle. Yamashita was joined on the podium by his compatriot Takatsugu Uda, who took silver, and bronze medalist Olas Klimin of Kazakhstan.
In football, Manchester City coach Pep Guardiola said his side were well aware of Real Madrid's habit of producing their best in tough times, with a string of injuries having depleted the visitors' defence ahead of Tuesday's Champions League playoff.
Real and City failed to advance automatically to the last 16 as one of the top 8 sides in the Champions League table after they finished 11th and 22nd respectively in the new league phase format and have to play a 2-legged playoff.
Definitely. There are few clubs in Europe that for the history, for everything, always it doesn't matter where. In a group stage, on the knockout stage, always is difficult. We have not done, how we said, quite well in group stage, so we deserve to be that we are. So the draw is the draw, and accept the challenge.
Meanwhile, Carlo Ancelotti said Manchester City was the worst possible rival Real Madrid could have been drawn against in the Champions League playoff and described the preparation process for the showdown as a nightmare.
Ahora parece un clásico porque hace muchos años que jugamos en esta competición. Creo que va a ser el partido de entretenido, de igualado como lo de antes. Es muy difícil prever lo que va a pasar en este partido porque va a depender mucho de la actitud, de la calidad, de la confianza, de la personalidad. Son partidos de un nivel tan alto que tú tienes que sacar la mejor versión en todos los aspectos, no en uno solo.
Ancelotti dismissed the idea that his side would be facing a weakened opponent compared to the previous years, calling Guardiola the best coach in the world. The club will clash for a fourth consecutive year, having met in 4 Champions League knockout ties since 2020. Borussia Dortmund will use the Champions League playoff first leg against Sporting on Tuesday to try and kickstart their season after their recent league run has seen them drop down the table. Dortmund, last year's Champions League finalists, lost 2-1 at home to VfB Stuttgart in the Bundesliga on Saturday in coach Niko Kovac's debut to drop to 11th place. They have won just one of their last 6 league matches but have reached the Champions League playoffs for a spot in the competition's round of 16.
This is the first part of these 2 games, and we have a second one, and tomorrow we want to get also a good result to have a good opportunity to reach the next step.
Dortmund lost 2-0 to Real Madrid in last year's Champions League final, but their recent Bundesliga performances have put next season's participation in Europe's premier club competition at risk. Kovac will be without Rami Bassibaini, who picked up a muscle injury against Stuttgart, but is expected to be fit for the league on the weekend. Sporting coach Rui Borges said he is still banking on facing a tough match at home, despite Dortmund's domestic woes.
In tennis, Iga Swiatek powered into the 3rd round of the Qatar Open on Monday by brushing aside Maria Sakkari in straight sets to kick off her bid for a 4th straight title in Doha. The 5-time Grand Slam champion overcame a slow start to win 6-3, 6-2.
The Polish star, who was given a 1-month doping ban last year, is playing for the first time since losing in the Melbourne semi-finals to eventual champion Madison Keys. The 23-year-old has not dropped a set at the Qatar Open since her second-round win over Victoria Golubic in 2022. Swiatek's victory in the tournament last year was her first of 4 WTA 1000 titles in 2024, taking her total tally to 10, the equal most among current players with Victoria Azarenka. For number 2, Swiatek will next face either Kazakh Yulia Putintseva or Czech youngster Linda Noskova in the last 16. Meanwhile, Ons Jabeur dispatched McCartney Kelsler 6-2, 6-love to advance to Tuesday's popcorn match against number 7 Zhang Qi-wei. Jabeur broke Kessler 6 times and won the match in 56 minutes, and it was the first scoreless set in nearly 3 years. 10th seed Paula Badosa of Spain held on for a 6-3, 4-6, 6-2 win against Mexico's Renata Zarazua. Badosa hammered 14 aces and converted 6 of her 9 break chances. She will be back on centre court tomorrow night for her second round encounter against Amanda Anisimova of the United States.
2-1, 6-3.
Onto golf, superstar Tiger Woods said Monday he was just not ready as he announced he will not play in this week's Genesis Invitational at Torrey Pines as planned following his mother's death. Woods had committed to his first professional tournament in 7 months in the Genesis before withdrawing.
Woods, the 15-time major champion, had committed to make his first appearance in a non-major on the US Tour since he played the Genesis last February, withdrawing after 1 round because of illness. Wood went on to finish 60th at the Masters and missed the cut in the year's other 3 majors as he struggled to recover between rounds because of back trouble and leg injuries from a 2021 car crash that continued to hamper him. His last start was at the Open Championship in July.
All right, so that's it from us this afternoon. In our top story today, Trump warns ceasefire halt if Hamas postpone prisoner exchange following Israel's violation of the deal. Do join us again this evening on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM at 8:30 p.m. for more news. You can also stream us online on RTM Click's website or mobile app. Till then, I'm Shuhaida Arifin. From river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching, and we would like to wish a beautiful and blissful Thaipusam to those celebrating. Goodbye for now.